Okay. All right. Wow. This has worked. All right. So, um, uh, let's be honest. I'm kind of surprised this worked. So that's cool. You're the first person I've had on this chat. Huh?
You're doing great, man.
All right. Thank you. This is a lot of this is new. Dude, I have to tell you, I do appreciate you coming to all my streams and talking. So I think it's good that you're here.
Man. That's because it's conversation. That's what America's about.
Yes. So let me be very clear, because it didn't seem like in the chat you were understanding exactly the point that I was making. The point that I'm arguing is not about specific gun control laws. What I'm arguing is that the NRA myth for a good guy with a gun is more likely to stop a bad guy with a gun does not exist.
Okay.
And that was specifically. So I think that's where we were getting crossed, because what you were arguing was shall not be infringed.
I don't think that you would. The problem is they don't have enough people who have guns in America for you to be able to do that, because it's only 32% of the population that has it, or 44% of households.
We have more firearms than people in this country.
Yeah, true. For those, because of those, batches of people, like we'll say 5% buy up a shit ton of guns, because some people have not just one gun. Like one of my friends has like, I think, a gun in literally every room in his house, and he has a 5-bedroom house.
Okay, but
so you're talking about like 20 guns. Or like 13 guns there.
Right.
So,
I understand, obviously, but you think, but I mean, the data doesn't purport to that argument. The data purports.
But it does. The problem is like New York and California have way more death rates than Arizona. Like I live in Arizona. We only have very few deaths by gun rates versus California, where they have higher stringent laws. New York, who has higher stringent laws. Michigan even beats us for how many homicides per year. And we have some of the most guns per capita. Texas is actually lower than Michigan, or right around it, and they have the same gun laws. And Michigan, like in Illinois, you're not allowed to have that in Chicago, right?
Okay. I kind of knew you were going to bring up Chicago.
You see what I'm saying?
No, right.
But it's not just Chicago. It could be any place where they have stringent laws. They still have gun deaths.
Right. I'm not arguing that this would get rid of all gun deaths. What I'm saying is, is something different. Is just okay. So part of the reason gun laws don't stop all gun crimes, especially in places like Chicago and that, is because we don't live. Each state is not a monolith. So because you have stricter gun laws in one country or one state doesn't mean those strict gun laws are in the next state over. So you're able to bring those firearms in.
True.
So
it can even go county by county.
Right.
Remember, you can just go out of Chicago and go buy a gun and then drive right back in Chicago.
Right. So just having Chicago strict gun laws doesn't change this thing. The data though that I'm looking at is for actively things that are happening in the mass shootings. So I think I'm not arguing even for gun restrictions. The only gun restriction I would like is a reinstatement of the assault weapons ban.
I think that you can't. All right, number one, we have to stop that. Assault weapons, you can't get those. You have to have a specific license, and it costs a crap ton of money to have a fully automatic weapon, a real fully automatic weapon. You have to go through. It costs so much money to get that, and to even try to like sell it to another person, they have to have that. You have to look up a little bit more about the auto, like full auto. No. It is almost impossible to get one of those now. I think they have them all on record.
Okay.
All of them.
But that's not that. See, that was the only one I was advocating for. The general argument.
But that's already done.
No. The assault weapons ban has been the actual legislation for it, and the data purports to, since that legislation has expired, has seen an increase in that type of in death. So the what I propose for actual dealing with these is not have more firearms. It's to deal with these social economic issues that underline crime. This is actually very similar to the
you're doing two. Listen, if we're gonna stick with guns, you're gonna stick with guns because this is called protection, right?
But I'm not advocating that you shouldn't have that.
But you're saying, what I'm saying to you is you're like, well, we have to fix it for their prosperity. That's up to them. We have to worry about our gun rights. See, when you try to dilute that with other little things,
no.
It has nowhere to go.
But you see, that's the difference. What I'm doing is separating the debate. Because I don't agree with you that having more guns can
I think
way more will lower the gun rate. I'm saying we can attack the issue of gun violence without actually touching any gun laws.
What if, here you go, since we know it's 32% or 44% of households have it, what if we were at
Do you have
95%? I'm just asking. Like, even we know that it's less than 50%. Let's say it's at a 90%. Do you think that we would just have rampant killings nonstop?
No.
Like,
so you're arguing would there be more mass shootings?
Intimidated. I believe there would be less because they would be intimidated because they know that if I go in there and there's 5 customers in that convenience store, each one of them, I know for a fact, 90% of our population is armed. 9 out of 10 of those people in there are armed. If I go in there with my gun and try to rob them, there's a high chance I get shot.
Okay.
Right?
But then would that not also, if you know that that's going to happen on the other side, if you know you're going to rob them, why wouldn't you just come in and start opening fire right away?
See, but that's the thing. Like, then you're just like, that's just an insane person.
Right, but I'm not arguing that you wouldn't have an insane person.
You know what I mean? Like,
no, look. I understand what your argument is. Your argument is enough of these weapons would create a deterrent for people to have crime. Yeah. But I don't think there's
by a lot.
I don't think that, first off, even just looking at the data that I have here, do you want me to send this in the Discord for the Gifford ones that I'm looking at?
Okay, I'll watch it I'm watching it on live right now.
Okay. So, all right, then I'm going to drop the chat because I think you might be like the only person.
The states with higher rates of gun ownership, they don't have higher deaths. Like, you can look that up. Try to look for another site because you can literally look up multiple sites and they'll tell you no. Like,
okay.
Like Texas has
states
just about as Michigan, right? Do you see what I'm saying? Like Arizona has less than California.
Higher,
like
deaths.
And we can own flamethrowers.
Yes. All right. Let's see states with firearm mortality rates. This is by. All right. So let's look at Texas. Texas has. And then we're going to compare Texas to what? To New York and California?
Yeah, why not? Like, you know what I mean? Those are two significantly different ideologies.
Okay, so we're agreeing that this data that we're looking at is this is the CDC's data, and
hopefully
this is
it's good. Hopefully, yeah. Like, hopefully
okay, so we agree this is an
they're not perfect either.
But this is a generally acceptable good set for data.
As we can.
Okay, so this is the firearm mortality rate by state, and this is age adjusted for death rates, and then is
all right.
This doesn't have 2019. It doesn't have 2020 statistics, which would be off anyway, just because of
fine. It's okay.
So let's see. So Texas has firearm injury death rates. It's 12.7 per 100,000, and the homicide rate is 5.9 per 100,000. And in New York, it says that the firearm injury death rate is 3.9 and the homicide rate is 3.2. So that's about half. That's a quarter as many firearm injury deaths and about half as many homicides. And then California has
100,000, right? They do have a lot more people. So those numbers could be like when we see those kind of like numbers and they like to go, hey, well, here's the percentage.
Okay, so California has...
But you should also make sure we reflect on the actual number, because if it's like, oh, here's a percentage, but it's like Texas's number adds up to only like 500 people, right?
Well, this is per 100,000. Wouldn't
like,
that... Wouldn't it be
just in general? Okay.
Okay. So California has...
Because I feel like huge numbers in comparison. But okay.
Well, all right. So we would have to also compare the population rate. So let's see if this actually is the population.
A little
rate.
Bit, like right, like because you're talking like you'd be like, oh,
right. But the fact that it's per 100,000 is
numbers could be massive difference. You know what I mean?
Okay, but all right. So California has 7.2. That's also less, and then it has a homicide rate about 4.5. So it's this closer homicide rate, but in both states it is lower. And now, obviously, homicide rate is not totally objective to firearms.
It just means someone died.
Right. So in New York...
That. It doesn't mean someone was murdered. It just means someone was
But even just
died.
Looking at the firearm injury rates, they have a quarter to about half as many.
The leading cause of death is heart disease for all of them.
For all of them? Yeah.
We barely talk about that.
Right. So that's...
You know that, right?
Yeah, but that has nothing to do with the gun control debate.
I know, but I always think it's
Well,
funny.
that's just because Americans are fat as fuck.
Yeah.
Okay, so what we need to
That's
do
what wealth
is
does, man.
what?
That's what wealth does.
Well, it's not just wealth. It's we have it's significantly cheaper and more cost efficient to eat unhealthy than it is to buy healthy food. So let's see. We need to do states by population.
Yeah, because if it's like,
Okay, so Texas.
and the only reason why I say this is so we have two references. Because you could be absolutely right, but then if you're talking about a few like, and I know this sucks, but if it's like 50 or 100 people difference, it's like,
Okay,
it's like, shit. Is
so
that
California
enough to believe
has
we're right, you know?
So since the July 2019 estimate, California has about 11 million more people than Texas, and New York has about 10 million less. Okay.
Does New York really have less? I thought they had way more.
Well, so this is actually something I was watching from I think it was, I don't remember if it was Vash or Hassan who was talking about this. They were talking with Ryan Grimm about this idea of overpopulation, and apparently we could fit every single person in the world in the landmass of Texas if it was as densely populated as New York.
Yep.
So it makes sense that New York has less people because it's so densely populated in only a couple of areas.
Makes sense. Yeah.
And Texas is like a much bigger landmass. I mean, even Florida is bigger. So we need to. Okay, so now that we have an idea what the states are, we need to look at what is it? The actual total number of deaths. Total number of gun deaths per state. Did I spelled state wrong? Because okay. All right. This is Wikipedia.
Boom. There we go.
I don't really want to use Wikipedia. I'm going to open it if it's.
They are absolutely biased in every sense of the word. They really are.
Wait, maybe this is. Hold on. Let's see what happens if we click on this. If this opens up the actual.
Because they had to sell out.
Hold on. What is this? Wait, I can't. Why won't you tell me what this is? 48. I think this is the actual total.
Boom, there you go.
I think, but I'm not sure because this doesn't open enough for it to just click for rates. This is death rate.
So Texas highest.
All right, so Texas
This is what we're going by.
Right, so Texas has
it by 700, right?
Texas has. Hold on. Let's go back to that stat. So if this is what we're looking at, death rate, yeah. So Texas has about 700 more deaths, and it has what do we say was 10 million less people? States
in
by
California, yes.
Okay, so it's
all right. So we have Texas. No, but remember, we don't have to only take Texas. We can do
right. No, we're going to look at them all because now that we found the stat.
Yeah, because
okay.
Yeah, and you see, like right after it is California, though.
Right.
Their laws are significantly more stringent, right?
But that's not the point. Texas has more firearms than California. Texas has more firearms than California. It has less of a population.
We have more firearms in Texas, I think.
What?
In Arizona per capita, I think Arizona has more firearms per capita than Texas.
Okay, but that's.
I mean, pretty
but
bad.
when we're comparing Texas,
look at them. But it's okay. No, you're fine.
Even Arizona's above New York as well.
It goes Texas.
So it's Texas, California, Florida. This is not
Florida, right?
done in a
Georgia.
This
Ohio.
is not done by any. It's done by total deaths. That's what it is. Okay.
Yeah, total deaths. You're doing fine. So
Okay.
then we have Illinois, even with stringent things. Tennessee, Missouri,
Michigan, Arizona.
Total deaths for the year.
This is for
Is that how
2019.
many people shooting each other?
Well,
How many
no.
people
This
have
is
died
not. This
from
is
it,
not
though?
just.
Doesn't mean
This is also, I think, suicides and stuff are also included in this.
Yes. Because we know that's one of the biggest rates,
Right.
right?
Look,
I think that's like the
so
largest one, right?
I think we've gotten away from ultimately what the point of the actual debate was. So my actual argument is that having more. So this is where I think we disagree. Most of the data purports that if you have a firearm in your home, you're actually not less. You're more likely to hurt somebody in your home, and it's more likely.
Well, he's like going to be more aggressive. Is that what you're stating?
Yeah. Well, this is where let's see if I can find the studies. States with higher rate of gunshot fire access triples suicide deaths. Well, just having a gun, we know increases your chance of suicide because effectively doing suicide because you're more likely to blow your brains out and that'll kill you than if you swallow pills,
slice your wrist or something.
Right, or like if you're gonna hang yourself,
catch it.
Right, because like as you're stepping off, if you're gonna hang yourself, there's that oh shit, I don't want to do this moment.
Yeah, but then the other issue we have now, right? When we do these things, right? The good guy with the gun, right? We're saying the good guy with the gun only saves 10 people per year, right? Or shoots 10 people per year.
The Texas stat, which was the most accurate one that I could find, was it said out of 316 over like a 15-year span, it was only 10 stopped it.
Okay. Got it. So would you say, is that a failure of our maybe morality?
No, I don't think. Oh,
because like it sounds like we should have more good people with guns.
No. I actually think
does that also include like when somebody pulls a gun out and they're like, no, and then they don't shoot him, they just leave?
No, hold on. Let me.
That's what I'm wondering.
Let me find.
You know what I mean?
Let me find that article again. Hold on.
I was just wondering about. You know what I mean? They're like, haha, and they're like, haha, leave, and they're like, screw this.
No. It's based on fuck. Guy with a gun. Nope, that's not the right search. With the gun statistics, because I know exactly. Okay. So this specifically stop mass shootings. So it's specifically while a shooting is occurring because that's what I was debating. So this
would be you do know the factors on this would be so astronomical.
No, the factor is simply
so many. You know what I mean? Like because you have to be in the right place at the right time.
Right. So this is a massive study. It was done. It was done over really 1980. I thought it was later than. Okay. So this is since 2000. It was from 2000 to 2019. So it was a 20-year study. And if it's a mass attack that requires at least 4 or more people to be injured, excluding the shooter. Right? So it's in those specific circumstances. So that means there's already a shooting in process. So from that data, first off, it is showing that the police are generally arriving on scene. So the two biggest points of this were shot by a police officer and suicide by police, because that's generally how these things end. They're very rarely subdued by even the police or somebody else. They generally take their own life because whatever they for the vast majority of this, they're either people who have mental illnesses or they have a specific target in mind, and then everyone else is collateral, or they're pushed by some type of ideology. Like there's always going to be like that.
But I'm wondering, is these 10 worth it?
I don't think I think the downside of everyone having firearms is not overweighed by the people who are not having firearms. So I think all right, that didn't come out clearly. You're asking, did these 10 people shooting that person stop is that worth it to what? To not have 90% of the population armed?
They save those lives.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I'm not arguing that it's
them.
I'm not arguing that
suicide.
that's no. Anytime loss of hold on, I have to plug my laptop in, so it might cut out for a second. I'm gonna. You know what? I'm actually
I'm not attacking. By the way, I'm not on attack mode. Just so you know, I'm generally like.
No. This has generally been a pretty good discussion. I think we're doing a good job with this. So I'm not arguing that when people with a firearm use that firearm, it to stop a mass shooting, it's bad. I'm saying it's less likely to happen than something else stopping that person, and therefore the proliferation of firearms in order to stop that situation is not an effective measure to lowering gun deaths. So you're still able to see the screen, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So as we can see here, the two largest are shot by police and suicide before police arriving. From there, the next largest number is subdued by citizens. So it's the shot by, according to this particular statistic, it is basically the least likely option is for citizens to fire back. And this is backed up by, just because I'm not like super
Well,
good.
yeah, because you have to understand, it's like when you send people to war, they'll shoot over their head.
Right? No.
You know what I mean?
Right.
People don't want to kill someone.
I understand it, and that's why I
They
think.
really don't.
But
Most people.
No, I understand that, and therefore I don't believe that having just a proliferation of firearms would be an acceptable way to stop these things. I think it's a much better answer to go after the root causes of what causes these people to do these things. Now, let's be clear. I'm not saying that if you fix all the root causes, there will be no more killings. That's an asinine, unbelievably stupid ideology that would ever happen. There's no way to have a utopia like this. We are effectively a very aggressive species with some type of mental illness built into our population, in which case that people will use that to harm others. Even cavemen who had like four brain cells combined would beat the shit out of each other and kill each other over things. So the ultimate argument is not to increase the proliferation of firearms in order to deal with this, because the answer to it appears statistically to not be more firearms are the answer. The answer should be handling things at the social economic level and ending failed policies like the war on drugs.
But we both know. All right, so we'll say. Well, no, I agree. The war on drugs is just dumb.
I mean, just removing that would create
I think that's dumb.
Just
It
removing that
should just help them.
Right. Just removing that obstacle would lower crime immensely.
Drugs coming in, I feel like that's something big. You know what I mean? Like fentanyl. Like
right.
They should stop
that's
but from
but
coming in, but don't make it like it should be. What would it be? Like a like something small. You know, I think it's like a fine.
I would have to look into the fentanyl things. But currently, if we wanted to deal with the actual, if we wanted to deal with like actually stopping the fentanyl, one way to do that would be to deal with our opioid crisis, and that would lower the need for fentanyl to flow in at the way it is. But just objectively, right now, there's things that we don't even need Congress approval for Joe Biden to do to end the war on drugs. He could decriminalize marijuana.
You have to understand.
That would make a huge.
Don't put any of your faith in the presidency, man. Just doesn't matter if it's Trump. It doesn't matter if it's Biden. Doesn't matter if it's Obama. Those people have extended their powers beyond what they should. Period. And they should not have ever. Listen, all these things are supposed to be dealt with by the states.
Yes, and
these people will keep dipping into our fucking pool. Right.
That's why I think it. But this is an issue that's actually being solved by the states. Marijuana legalization is being solved by the states. Right? The problem is it's still federally a crime. Yeah. So that's where they crash.
I don't even know if can Biden single-handedly make it legal?
Yes, he could write. He could write. Yes, he could write an executive order that allows that takes marijuana off.
We should know.
He does.
I think that's written into law by Congress. Do you see what I'm saying? So I don't know if his executive order can supersede that law that was signed in by a different president. Do you see what I'm saying? Because if it was that easy, let's be honest, it would have been done by now.
No.
You know what I mean? Like during the pandemic, Donald Trump would have been like, "Oh, we're doing really bad. I legalized marijuana." He gains a 20% bump.
He would have did, but you have to.
Do you know what I mean?
No. Look. Objectively, yes. Hold on.
Like it's weird to me. You know what I'm saying? It's like I feel like Obama would have done it.
Right. Hold on. Let me just say this.
And if Joe Biden just does it, it's going to be like it's weird, right? But that's fine.
This is Kushbong. This is not a gun fetish channel. It's you just happened to catch me in a debate on this. Generally, what I do, so I hope that at least you've gotten part of this, Darthtotes, from what I've. The whole point of my channel has been to. Yes, he absolutely does, but this was kind of been a rambling thing. The whole point of this channel, and I should. No, I know. He should be. He's objectively a criminal. Yeah. The whole point of this channel is for me to discuss what's going on in the news, because my theory of politics is that too many people don't understand what's happening in the country around them because they don't have the time to spend looking for this. He can't. No, I thought he could do an executive order to end it. That's what I was saying. Yeah.
He has to have Congress pass it because it's a law.
Well, I know there's I know there's legislation proposing that.
Yeah, good. But that's what I was trying to say is like, I don't think he can just, you know what I mean, just a flick of a pen.
Right, but even if he did,
that's pretty intense.
Well, yeah, that was a lot of what part of the problem is with that is the gridlock in Congress making things unable to happen. But let me get to my point. So the whole point of this channel is to explain what's going on in simple ways. If you actually go to the YouTube channel that I have, I've broken down a lot of the bills that were passed by Congress. So when I'll pull up a bill, whether it was the Equality Act, I'll say, okay, so we're looking at the act. This is what it will do. Here's the arguments against it, and here's why those arguments are good or bad. So the whole point of this channel, and objectively, I've probably gotten a little sidetracked because I'm still used to figuring out how to talk to the points that I want and talk to you guys in chat, and which is good because I have a small audience right now. We've been talking. I think yesterday I only spoke to you pretty much, and today we've talked for at least. Does this have a number for how long this is going on? Let's say about 25 minutes. So I haven't done it in the way that I wanted to. Also, there's not like a super lot of legislation being pushed right now. Basically, it's just the January 6th Commission, and then whatever we hear from the jobs plan and the police reform bills. There's just too much gridlock for anything to happen. So I think that's part of why we have the expansion of executive orders is because of the congressional gridlock, and we've seen that they can be changed by president. We saw.
But that's not acceptable either, though.
Right, and the answer to dealing with the congressional gridlock is to remove the filibuster, so that the Congress and Senate can actually.
That's their job.
It is.
They have to agree.
And
I have to figure out a way. Listen, these little guys are at this point where they can't get something passed by 50-50, right? They have to get 51% if they're lucky, whatever. That means that they are writing up bills that the other side disagrees with so much that they're saying absolutely not.
And it doesn't matter what the people want. But
that's not acceptable.
Exactly.
So it should be 90%, right? They should have bills with 90% approval.
And there are issues. No, I don't even think it needs to be 90%. I think if you're looking at a bill that has anywhere between 51 to 90% approval, you have the majority of the American people. And
like even 51%, it's like, listen, these people should be fine.
But the whole thing is, if you allow for the filibuster and you allow a minority to control what they pass, because if they can block it and nothing will pass, then what you're doing is you're making the elections at the Senate not have a consequence, because the only thing that they can pass is things through reconciliation or things that they've removed the filibuster for. So therefore, larger issues like dealing with police violence, dealing with drugs, dealing with our elections, dealing with gun violence, dealing with immigration, dealing with healthcare, cannot be passed through the normal channels. They have to be passed along a party line. This was how Bernie was going to try to pass his Medicare for All. He was going to do it through reconciliation. So even if we just look at the American Rescue Plan, which had a 75% approval among Americans, including a majority approval among Republicans, not a single Republican voted for it. Which in a normal functioning democracy where your vote mattered and it wasn't gerrymandered, every single Republican would lose their seat because they chose not to help you.
Well, it matters because you forget about their constituents.
Their constituents were
are writing them letters, and they're saying don't.
Except their
And you have to also
constituents by
remember-
polling said that they approved it. And if it was something their constituents didn't want, why are there Republicans who voted against it and are then taking credit for it?
For voting against it, right?
No,
They take
for
credit
the
it,
aid
right?
that came to them.
Unless they said that they went to adjudication and that's what she said, and then that's how they passed it. So they probably
No, so
got some deals, right?
no,
Is that
no.
what you're saying?
So there's people like Madison Cawthorn, who
Okay.
voted against the American Rescue Plan, and then has gone out and said when the funding is going out, he's like, look, North Carolina, we got you this funding in this bill that I voted against. He doesn't say that last part, but any funding that came from that bill came among his objections. So he could say, look, Carolina, I got you this, but it's irrelevant because he decided, even if he fought for it in the bill to get whatever goodies he wanted or to get a hospital or something, it's irrelevant for what he fought for because it passed over his own objection.
Yes,
And that's,
but he showed that because let's just say that.
but that's what the problem
Let's just
is.
say that 60. Let's say out of the 100 constituents he has, 65, 70% of them say no, and 30% of them say yes. So that's how he has to split his opinion, right?
Yes,
So he has to fight for what he can out of the bill, but then says, I do not approve this bill totally because some of the things you're asking for, my constituents at home think you're insane.
right, but then if it's
Just like your constituents at your home think I'm insane for even asking for these things, right?
yes,
So
but
they're like
it's not like they're asking
fighting-
for,
Right.
but that's where the separation comes from. Because if overall there's something that's going to help your constituents, and they and they think it's objectively most of it is bad, and there's enough of it to help your constituents, you should still try to pass it for your constituents, and then you tout out that yes, I fought for this. Look, I objected to all of this, but we got this chunk of money for you. And so even though I voted to
But
pass
he did
the
that anyways, and
But-
he got it with voting against it.
right, but that undercuts his message because you're saying
No, but he still won because you still did it anyways, and you didn't even get his support. You did what he wanted without his support at all.
that's assuming that's what he wanted. But if you're a constituent and I told
Right.
you, hey, anything you got, even though you got it, your representative was one of the people who could have stopped you from getting it. So had there been a tighter margin, or Joe Manchin had actually tanked the legislation, he would have not. They would have gotten nothing. Period. So if you're going to fight against the legislation, and that's going to help
This is
people,
the checks, right? That went out
not just the checks. It's so
and the unemployment because we have like 7. Don't we have like how?
So, I've talked about this a bunch. Everything Joe Manchin touched in the American Rescue Plan was made objectively worse.
Yeah,
And that's
fine.
a problem.
In your opinion, to him, he might think that he did everything right. And
No,
tried to stop
no.
certain things.
Less people
Or
got
too
checks
soon.
for less money because of the changes Joe Manchin wanted.
Bro, we just printed out 60% of all currency. We can't keep doing this.
Okay, so
There's a point. Do you understand what I'm saying, man? Like,
so that's
there's a point
look.
where our debt's gonna hit like what 40 trillion, 50. When
Okay,
does it
so-
hit when we finally go? Oh no, we might need to stop.
So this has
When does
been
that happen?
How long have I been streaming for? Holy
Like
fuck!
2 hours and 9 minutes.
Yeah. Okay. So it's 3:00. We're good for a little, but no. All right. So, fuck. This is so.
Like, you know
many-
what I'm saying, right? I get
look,
we're bailing
no,
out
but
American
the
people, but, like,
argument
they're-
that to make
feel me?
for the legislation of that and for the deficit is different than that, because if you look at where most of the money was printed from and where it went, it's not to the function to help the American people, in which it would be a way for us to pay down this debt. It was the first we printed. So a lot of the printing came because of COVID. But before we even started like the real lockdown, the stock market crashed for like a week. How much capital did we pump into the stock market to supply it for half hour? $4 or $5 trillion? I don't remember how many days they did that. But I know it was like for the.
No idea.
But it's something.
But you have to remember that was 401ks. That's what they were trying to take.
Well, they were trying to save just the general stock, general stock market.
Yeah. Yes.
Because of how fast it was cratered.
Done that.
Right.
But we both hate that, don't we?
Well, I don't think the stock market is a good way to judge the health of the economy.
Yeah, because it's just a giant casino.
It's a reference of rich people's feelings. So
so why are we even doing that? Do you see what I'm saying? Why are we?
No, I'm agreeing with you, but I'm saying that
I think they should all fail. I think that back in 2008, those companies should have failed. I think in this next crash, they should have let it crash, and we should have rebuilt like we did before.
Well, we can't let it crash like that because we've tied too much of the economy to things like that. So it would cause more devastation to allow it to collapse. I mean, we saw this in the Great Depression when the stock market crashed, and that's what caused it. The issue is the money needs to be changed. How we need to stop trying to do trickle down and start doing a bottom up economy. Because
because the problem. All right, I love when people say the bottom up like a totem pole, right? Because the strongest portion is the bottom. This is the bottom. That's the bottom. And the thing is the real truth is like, yes, the bottom is like kind of the core, but like we're not built that way, man.
Wait, what do you mean?
You succeed and go to the top. Some people are born into it, granted, but Jeff Bezos wasn't born into wealth.
Yeah, but but giving Jeff Bezos.
You see what I'm saying?
But giving Jeff Bezos and people like Jeff Bezos money, we have 50 years of evidence that trickle down doesn't work.
I know, but that's up to us to stop giving him money. You don't.
So where would you put the money?
Amazon.
That's where
Amazon.
So the question is,
do you have Amazon? You know what I mean?
Do I have Amazon? I mean, I use it for.
Yeah, do you have Amazon Prime?
I use it to watch shows, but I have it as a part of a family account.
Okay, that's fine. But I'm saying is I don't have Amazon because I don't want Jeff Bezos to make more money.
Right.
Like, I'm not saying I won't use Amazon, but I'm not going to use it.
Right, but that's not what we're.
Something once in a blue moon, you know.
Right. No. Yeah. But that's not what we're talking about. So. Oh man, this got way.
What we're talking about is hierarchy. It's okay. You're fine. This is how conversations. You have
right. I know this.
It's going to evolve. Do you see what I'm saying? Because conversations have to evolve into different pieces.
Well, technically, you could just argue about that. We've gotten so far off topic, but
forever. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, you could obviously have debates on specific things, but so here's the question. Ultimately, comes down to for the economy. When you're doing something and you're looking to stimulate a part of the economy, too often we try to give it to people at the top. And when we have too much evidence that the money does not trickle back down, when we have evidence that if you put money into the bottom, it goes out and it builds up.
Who gives it to the top? When it should be going to small businesses, who gives it to the top?
Well, the people in charge do.
All those people in charge. Democrats, Republicans.
It's generally Republicans.
Do it, right? Would we say both?
No, it's generally. Look, it's if you look at.
Obama did it.
What? Who did?
Obama did it.
Yes,
with Biden.
Yeah, no, that was bad.
Who's in charge now again? Biden.
It's
right.
It was bad when.
But you read.
But there's first of all there's more into it. So what the problem with what Biden did was. He made 90% of the Bush tax cuts, which every time we're told there's going to be tax cuts to the wealthy, it's going to trickle down. It's objectively a lie every single time. He made too many of them permanent.
Within reason matters. You don't know where those tax cuts. You don't know specifically every business's.
Oh no.
Like that's a very. Do you see what I'm saying? Like you don't.
No.
Tax cuts
it's not that every single business is going to just do stock buybacks, but we know the ones who benefited from it most do. We have 50 years of data that most of the corporations do this. Because
their incentive is to make more money, not. It's
yes, exactly.
You see what I'm saying?
No, I'm not.
Like.
All right, so I think a lot of what's happening is we're agreeing on most of these things. So
we do agree, but it's how you get it done, and it's like when you start really crunching the balls of Jeff Bezos. You have to understand when they say shit rolls downhill, they mean like, all right, so we're going to crunch on Jeff Bezos, but all the small businesses that use Jeff Bezos's business model, right, in order to get their small business going, now you're putting where is he going to put his crunch on them. So they're going to pay more. So that's when they say shit rolls downhill. They're talking about that. When you screw Microsoft, now he's screwing all those businesses that use his computer software. So he's going to make them pay more because he's not going to take less. No.
But there's also data to purport.
You know what I'm saying?
There's also data. So I mean, this is also the argument. This is also the argument against raising the minimum wage. If the argument for McDonald's is, if you raise the minimum wage for McDonald's workers, then they're going to raise the rate of the burgers. But if you compare us to countries that have, if you compare us to Denmark, which I think is the one, it's either Denmark or Finland, that has $22 an hour minimum wage, our burger already costs more than theirs.
Can I be real with you?
Yeah.
The minimum wage is irrelevant. That should be where you start when you're like a teenager to 20.
Right, but it's not where
and it's okay to start that way and room up with somebody and get your life going, and then slowly build up. No one gets to start at 18 with everything besides those few silver spoon people.
But you should, right? But
you know what I mean?
It's not irrelevant because it should be, because if your argument is, they should be able to start at that, it's not. It should be at least a living wage, which it currently isn't. Well,
you have to understand if they're rooming up with their friend, it is a living wage.
It depends.
They can do enough to pay. They can split their costs, and they can have enough to start saving and get themselves going. And remember, you're starting at the bottom and working your way up.
But there isn't that upward mobility,
right?
And it's harder to get that upward.
There is if you work harder. No,
because
you work harder than your average bear, than the guy next to you, you will get further ahead.
No,
and if you and if you stay at McDonald's long enough, you go to a different job that gives you more money. You can do this.
You can, but
you know what I mean?
You have to work. But if you don't have time because you're working multiple jobs at 40 hours a week, you can't do that.
Yeah, my mom did it. That's what I'm trying to say.
Right, but you see what you're
kicks ass. You see what I'm saying?
But what you're using is individual samples to promote a larger.
But it's not even individual. It's just that.
But the statistics don't back
minimum versus the guy who works twice as hard, who usually exceeds more.
It depends on what your definition of twice as hard is. Is the person is the mother making barely ends meet on multiple jobs with a kid, not working harder than the person who was born with the silver spoon in their mouth, even though they have infinitely more money?
So we'll move this up. Remember, we use them as an example of silver spoon. And remember, those silver spoon people get different education, right? And they get taught how to manage money and do things differently than we do.
So what you're saying is it's also
that's a different. It's an education thing. Yes, absolutely.
But then what you're also saying is if worrying about your finances, that's also implying that it's a moral failing because you're not using your finances responsibly.
Kind of, because you can't force people to buy what they want to buy, right? So when we talk about my mom, right, we'll say my mom or anyone else. There's plenty of people. There's plenty of examples of people working 2 jobs and barely making it. I get it, and I'm.
You still there? I think you cut out.
Sorry about that. My headset's all jacked. But what I'm saying is when you have all those examples, right? Those people do work, and then they transition and get different jobs. Like sometimes you do have to do the crappy job, man. You have to do
And I'm not arguing.
I did a crap. I was a dishwasher. Do you know what I mean? And then I took that skill of work ethic, and I'm so happy the manager gave me that because I was a crappy dishwasher. I was crap. He paid me $5.25 an hour. I was worth $2 or $1.50. That's how bad I was. And I screwed up so many times, and I could have, if I didn't wash those dishes right and got somebody sick, that could have cost him even more money, right? And this is what I'm trying to say is I had to learn that. You can't just go in there and go, you owe me $15 an hour. No, I don't. You're not even worth that. That's the real truth.
Okay,
when you come at me, you don't know anything. I'm teaching you work ethic, and then I'm going to have to deal with your, problems for a while until I mold you into the worker I need. You see what I'm saying?
Yes, but also, all right, so there's more stuff that I don't have the information to push back on because I know I've heard your talking point. I just haven't looked into the counter arguments enough to be confident of pushing back on it. But I do know it also what you're using is still it's still a personal individual example to promote a larger trend.
But you can do that. You know that, right? Like,
yes, you can do that, but it's
do
generally
this
undercut
all the
by having
time.
larger sample sizes with data that pushes back on it.
Like what? Like
It's
where? Like people who actually want to work. If people work hard, they get ahead,
but
dude.
that's not always
Do you think CEOs don't work?
Do you think Jeff Bezos works a billion times harder than the people at his warehouses who literally
I have a
die?
question. How many hours? I have a question. When Jeff Bezos was building up his company, how many hours do you think he dedicated? By the way, I don't like Jeff Bezos. I'm just saying we're just purely going off of
But
how many
the
hours do you
the
think it
argument
took?
comes down to that a CEO would work 3,000 times harder than the person at the bottom, because that's the
No,
difference in their pay.
No, it's just that's how the money, right? So you're worried about the 3,000 difference, right? Which I can even agree with you. It's like, oh my God, right? It's like, what are you guys doing? This is insanity, right? This is just gone way overboard. But at the same time, what does a CEO deal with? Do you know?
Yeah, I do.
What do
I
they do?
work with
I'm saying
this.
like a real CEO of a major
Oh,
corporation.
major
making
corporate, but that's not. So
like
look,
a
I'm not
major,
advocating.
holy crap.
I'm not
corporation,
advocating
right?
that they shouldn't.
And what is
I'm not advocating that they shouldn't be paid in equal to what they
more?
do. But the problem is when they do it, it's a lot of how they make their money is exploitative to the people at the bottom who aren't paid for what their
Kinda.
labor is worth. That's what I'm
Some
talking about for a
people are
bottom
like,
up
we'll say,
system.
But you have to understand the bottom down, like the bottom up system. The problem is those people from the bottom are generating that money, right? So if I pay somebody, $15 an hour, they have to make like $40 an hour worth of value because I have to pay them their taxes, my taxes for them. Sometimes I have to pay for their insurance, and I might take the 10 off of them off of that hour. And then I'm going to have, and that's if they bring that in. That's
Yeah, but if you don't pay them enough, if you pay them more, then they can actually purchase the products that they are currently making, and they have more time
that's
to.
not what you're not paying them to purchase your products. You're
But
paying
if you
them to
pay
sell
them
your
and they
products.
have the ability to purchase
No.
your products, it increases your bottom line. And then also, if they have
Can.
more money, then they are able to spread it into doing other leisure activities, which then spreads it further to other corporations and other small businesses that are looking to pay their employees more so that the money keeps spreading. Instead of when you give it to people at the
Yes.
top who then put it into stock buybacks where it only inflates their
What do you
own
think-
worth.
But that's okay. We're going to say those stock buybacks, right? Those are those people that were like, "Argh," right? But a lot of those people actually go invest in other people. Like me, I'm like, say I want to start a business, right? Like Shark Tank will say blah blah blah. But Shark
Yeah.
Tank is just representation of going to a bank and pretty much begging them for a loan,
Right,
right?
but this idea, but the data doesn't purport that they're doing enough to put the money back, and it's generally just being hidden to stock buybacks, or it's put overseas, or it's not being paid in taxes. That's the difference.
We can tear up these monopolies. I am fully on board, and most Republicans are on board on ripping these monopolies.
Varies.
Because it's just gotten ridiculous. No. They are very. Listen, do not allow these people on Fox News to convince you.
I don't know.
that's how
I don't
Republicans
listen to the Fox
think.
News people. I listen
I
to the
beg you.
actual Republicans tell me that.
Most of us do want most of those monopolies to be broken up. It's not because we understand because monopolies is anti-capitalism. Okay, because that's not a fair.
No, a monopoly
that's
is
not fighting each other.
A monopoly
that's
is capitalism
anarchism.
working.
No. You're talking about neo-capitalism where they
We have
rig the
right. We
system
don't
for
live in a
themselves.
capitalist society. We have a crony capitalist
If we lived in a real capitalist society where they go, oh, you have now consumed like beyond 60 or 70% of the thing. There's no competition. You are the competition.
But that's how
when they break
capitalism
you up.
works. The only way to deal that is to put safeguards on it, and we don't have that
But
because
that's what we do.
we
Not now. but
No, we
did.
have objective monopolies,
once
and the reason we
before.
don't have it anymore is because the corporations and the wealthy with their interest have captured the government through bribes because we've legalized bribery. So in order to deal with that, we have to pass something like HR1, which would allow for the public financing of elections and for limiting dark money. And in order to ultimately do this, we need to overturn Citizens United.
I don't even know. I have to look up Citizens United.
Citizens United says that a corporation giving you money, an infinite amount of money, is speech.
Oh yeah, that's ridiculous.
We have to end the use of dark money.
Right?
And
because like, how can a corporation supersede us? Just an individual.
Right. So
you know what I'm saying?
This is
like
why
I should be, if they can give an infinite amount, right? I'm not saying I would, but like say if I wanted to give Donald Trump $1 million, right? Because I believe in his campaign or whatever, I can't do that. That's illegal.
No, you can if you set it up through a PAC.
Corporate PAC. You know how fucked up that is and weird?
Exactly.
Like it should just be all of us. We should be able to.
That's what you're advocating for.
Why, Bernie got screwed.
What you're advocating for is
Donald Trump got screwed. Everyone's gotten screwed.
No. What you just explained is why we need to move to a public financing of elections instead of a private financing of elections.
Well, I think that you should make it so, because the real problem is the corporation portion, not that people can't flood the zone.
Well, that's
saying? Like, you should be able to flood the zone, right?
We're advocating for the same thing. I'm just explaining it in more detail because I've actually looked into this. So what you're saying is,
I was just saying, like the Koch brothers, you might not like them, but they should be able to go right.
The way they do that is through corporate PACs and through super PACs. And part of what we have to do is to eliminate dark money, so we know who's paying for what, and we put limits on what corporations can spend. That's what public financing of elections is. If I give you $15, the government then multiplies what I give you and gives that to that campaign. And the reason we do that is because people who are just starting don't have the money to compete with people who are already established, who already have massive donors. Because if I was starting to run today, and let's say I was just crowdsourcing off of Twitch and stuff, it wouldn't matter if I was running against, because I live in New York, if I was running against Chuck Schumer, the money he could raise would just obliterate what I could. And now let's say I was a phenomenal candidate and I was somebody like AOC who got outspent like 15-1 or whatever the number she got outspent was. Some of them will break through, but too often you can't get into the front door because you can't pay for it. So by moving to a public financing system, it would level the playing field for new ideas and new people to come into. And it would also lessen the ability of corporations to buy politicians.
Potentially.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what part of
HR. Is there a cap? Is there just caps on corporations? Is there caps on us? Or is it no cap?
I would have to double. So I know it's
all in.
Well, corporations obviously need a cap because if it comes down to who's going to spend more, is the regular people or corporations? Corporations technically do have caps. There's actually a cap on a corporation, how much they can donate to you. Mm-hmm. And there's currently caps.
More than ours.
What? It's much more. It's larger than an individual person's. Because they can obviously do more. But you can circumvent that with PACs and super PACs because then it's dark money, so it doesn't count how much money you do. So
that's
people,
right? Insanity.
Right, obviously. And so one of the ways to change that would be to pass HR 1. So part of what, if you look at before Super Tuesday, Bernie was obliterating everybody in fundraising.
Why do you think I hate Joe Biden?
I don't.
Why do you think most people hate Joe Biden, man?
I don't agree that
Hillary Clinton stole it from Bernie Sanders, and then
Hillary stole it from Bernie.
Let's be honest. Bernie was pretty cool at first, right? He was a nationalist. That's what he was talking about.
I think Bernie has always been
talking about a little bit of socialism. But he was a nationalist.
I don't know.
That's what he was talking about and portrayed himself as in 2016.
I know.
He was talking about making all the trade deals that we were getting screwed. We needed to help our people. How are we going to help us? We need to stop being in these foreign wars. We need to worry about what we're doing. That's what he was saying.
But they
screwed Bernie twice.
But there's a difference. Well, no. So when you say they screwed Bernie twice, it's a little more complicated than that. So let's break this down. So this idea that he was a nationalist is not directly true. What a lot of Bernie is a sock down. That's what he is. That's what he said he is. The policies that he pushed were kind of similar to some of the ones Donald Trump was pushing, because what Donald Trump was pushing was a fake populism. Bernie's an actual populist, and the reason Donald Trump was a fake populist is because we saw that the things that he legislated as when he was actually when he was in charge was basically as a Republican instead of the populist that he ran on. So that's the difference there. And he actually ran it as, because nationalism is explicitly different than some of the policies Bernie was pushing for. So he objectively got cheated in the first time because the DNC put their thumb on the scale. The second time,
and they did,
mm-hmm. But the DNC, when they got sued for it, what they argued in court is technically we're a private company and we don't owe the people a fair election, which is a separate problem in itself. The second time,
that's why I'm saying, why would you vote that way, man? Did you just hear what they said to you?
Yeah, because I believe that the only way to push the policies that I want is to push for the people that I want, and they're objectively not Republicans. Now, the second time what happened is Bernie did objectively worse in a lot of ways. Part of it was because people felt safer voting for Bernie because they were willing to try to push the boundaries more. The second time, we had seen what 4 years of Donald Trump's policies had done, so therefore we were able to. There was this fear of what would come next, so they were kind of pushed into this media bias of a safer option. And
no,
yes,
you can't say all that now.
You can say all that.
I have a question. If there was no COVID, would we have Donald Trump as president
absolutely
right now?
Donald Trump would have won if there was no COVID. If he hadn't,
hands down, correct?
Right. But I don't think he wouldn't have beaten Bernie.
Destroyed. Come on now.
Now, okay. Who must go?
Let's
Thank you.
real. Everyone who wanted a job had a job.
I don't look. Donald Trump lost because he fucked up COVID on like every level.
I wouldn't blame a virus.
Huh?
That's very intense, man. It like killed millions of people across the world.
And we did.
Can we kind of like chill on that a little bit?
No.
Like bro, Texas just has a zero. What was it last month? They said they had zero COVID.
Yeah,
deaths.
but hold on. Let me answer this, and then I'll get back to you. Who must go? If you go back and look into the earlier in the VOD, so a climate lockdown is something that Fox News and Republicans are pushing because the COVID lockdowns are ending, or they've basically ended everywhere. So they need this new scare tactic, and what they're currently pushing is this idea of people who are going to, in order to enact a green climate and change the economy, they're going to lock you down because of, depending on which source you listen to, a various of ridiculous statements. But it's a fear-mongering tactics. And also, because you appear to be new, I'm going to drop the Discord link and then my other link. So give me 1 second. I'll get back to you, and we'll get back to that. We'll get back to that in a second. Actually, you know what? I'm just going to switch it to the regular screen so I can do things differently. Wow, this was Control V. That's the Discord link. So then you can get into these never-ending conversations that I'm in Darthtotes. You should also follow me on Twitter. I keep forgetting that it's fucking reversed. Twitter at Faces Ideas, or YouTube at Fresh Faces New Ideas, because that was the other thing we were discussing. But yeah, I love the climate lockdown. That's just like hysterical to me. And actually, I hope that gets clipped. If anyone who's followed me long enough to clip that and wants to send that to Rob Noor or one of the people pushing it, that'd be fun. Shit, I lost my train of thought. What were we discussing? Oh, COVID. Yeah, there were certain governments that did objectively worse because we know that because they had more deaths. And they all seem to have a similar thing in common. And it's not that they were males, which is somebody that I had a conversation with was arguing. It's that they are all authoritarian leaders. It was places like the U.S. It was Brazil. It was Russia. It was India. And the reason they did that is because of the authoritarian ideology. To be an authoritarian leader, you need to have a couple things. One is you need to have an opponent who is both unbelievably strong, that they're a massive threat to the people, but are also incredibly weak, that you are too strong to deal with them. And you also need to be able to have a massive issues that you're able to lie about. And the problem with COVID is you can lie and say there's no COVID. COVID isn't going to give a fuck. It's still going to just kill millions of people. So when you argue that this wasn't as bad as it could have been, or things like that, there's a reason that we did so much worse. And it is partly because we didn't have a federal government that truly tried to deal with this virus. And look, I truly believe this. If you swap Donald Trump with any person who was in the 2016 campaign, any of the Republicans or Hillary or Bernie, we would not have done this bad, with possibly the exception of Ben Carson.
Dude, we got a vaccine.
But no. Look, the vaccine
2 weeks
though.
After the election, think about that for a minute. Let's be.
No,
real.
I'm not arguing the vaccine.
They found out about it in December of 2019.
No,
we did it before the following December. We already have a vaccine.
The vaccine is a medical miracle.
Shoving it into people's arms.
But the vaccine.
That's what I'm trying to say. Like, but you have to understand, he was a president during that time, so you can't say, well, his handling was garbage. But then a medical miracle happened while he. But
how much? All right, so that's where it comes down to.
You can't do both.
You can do both because you can.
Saying, let's just say if that vaccine came out a week before the election, who won?
I still don't think Trump wins.
Because let's be real. You just said a medical miracle.
It is a medical miracle, but I don't believe that that Donald Trump had that much to do with it. I think he had much more of an impact on the amount of people who died and the devastation that was wrought by this virus than. Yes.
You cannot blame it on him because he backed off and did exactly what a president was supposed to.
That is not even close to true.
No. The state's governors are supposed to handle these issues. That is the truth. He is not supposed to supersede his power. He's not like a dictator. He's not a czar.
It's not that he didn't supersede his power.
He said, hey, states, do this. Tell me what you need. I will send it to you.
And then they didn't. But they didn't. First off, we
did.
No,
everything they needed. They complimented him at first. They said, "Thank you, everything I needed."
But we know that
forever, and then it became political.
First off, we know that he pushed wrong information that got people killed, and we know he got a lot of it from Fox. And there's data showing
which one.
What?
Which one? The hydrochloroquine that they've used over in India that works? How about the other drug that he brought up that works in India that decreased the
hydrochloroquine is not objectively a drug. The FDA says don't use it.
They say don't use it, right? But then they use it over in other countries and it
works.
He
doesn't know. That's why would they not use it here?
Why would they? But dude, this is what I'm trying to say. He was using hydrochloroquine. Like he even told you he was.
And people died from it.
So how many people died from it? How many people died from hydrochloroquine? And let's just say even if he was wrong, we'll say because he even put his chips on because he did it himself.
No, there's no proof that he did it himself.
I'm not even going to tell you. He said he did, right?
He did, but he said a lot of things. He said windmills cause cancer from sound. He didn't just because he said it.
What did you say? Windmills cause cancer from sound?
Yeah, do you not remember that? That's my favorite all-time Donald. Hold on, let me pull this up. This is my favorite all-time.
I think he might have slipped up there, bro. Like we both know, you ain't gonna get no cancer from some sound unless there was like some crazy research study, and then we would be like, "Oh shit, you really can get cancer from sound." You know what I mean? But I don't see him just doing that on purpose. You know what I mean? Like,
hold on. Hold on. I'm gonna try to see if this is the exact clip.
Hillary wanted to try to say the main issue is you're like, hey, it's a medical miracle during his presidency, and then you're like, well, if it was anybody else, it would have been better. It's like,
no, he made because we've seen other
we still don't even give him props.
No, I do. Look, all right. So there's I think you're maybe I didn't make this clear. He definitely deserves credit for Operation Warp Speed, and we had somebody was saying that too. He deserves credit for having to put it into all of this. However, the research he didn't the things he did to the research was basically say, hey, you could do steps 3, 4, and 5 at the same time. So that allowed them to produce other things. However, that's only one part of it. One of the other ways that he could have impacted the country is by saying, look, everybody stay home for X amount of time. And while you are home, we, the federal government, will take care of you, and we will take care of your businesses. And by doing that...
We did that.
No, we didn't.
We did that exact thing.
Yes. No.
We all remember 15 days turned into a year?
And why did it turn into a year?
No, and then we locked down. We did. We locked down.
But why did
down Arizona. We locked down a whole bunch of cities.
But why didn't? But then months. Why did it spread so badly? Because we did the.
Because we didn't know.
No, it's not just that we didn't know. It's because we did half measures. We didn't lock down because other countries that locked down did not have this issue.
You can't violate right? You can't violate.
So look, I
We
hear
have
this a
more
lot.
rights in those countries. You know what I mean? We can't. You literally can't.
Look,
Because it's given to them by God. You're just a man. You know what I'm saying? I'm sorry. To them, they're like, no matter what we say, like, I'm an atheist. I'm a full-blown atheist.
but so this
right? But they believe it's from their God.
Right. So look, I think because he talked out of, so here's where I stand on this. The lockdowns. Other countries that did actual serious lockdowns and stimulated the people at home and their businesses did better than us objectively, both in death total and the economic crash. We did half measures. We had many protests against the lockdowns, and I don't truly believe. I think at a time of crisis versus
they also had protests during George Floyd riots.
Yeah,
and all
hold
that
on,
stuff.
but
I'm not. You know what I mean? We have to add both sides.
Let me.
Just
we can get
ignoring
to
it
that
blatantly. You know. But
we can get to those in a second. But if we look at this idea that we didn't lock down hard enough, and we locked down for a year, we didn't have true lockdowns in a way that would have objectively stopped the spread of the virus. We had like half measures. Different states had different things. What we needed was a federal guideline to how they should have done it, which we did not get.
But you can't. It's illegal.
I'm not. No.
It's literally a violation. Do you see what I'm saying? It's literally you would be violating rights.
I'm not saying the federal government had to mandate it. I said a federal government guideline for what the states should be able to do.
Yeah, they had that though.
But it wasn't. No. Because different states wouldn't lock down, and
the CDC, I thought, and they're like
the CDC had guidelines, but the federal government wasn't backing them. They would argue with them on every level.
Well, they have to.
They don't have to.
You're right.
Why
would
would
have to make sure that they're right? You have to make sure that the CDC is saying something correctly, because people rely on them.
And which would, but
right?
the things that
we have to make sure you're right. Just like Fauci said, "Hey, don't wear masks. Do wear masks. Wear masks."
Okay, so this one is
and
brought up a lot.
I'm attacking Fauci, by the way, like he's God, right? We're saying that even the guy we pay $1 million a year to can't even get his story straight, right?
Now, okay, now let's be clear.
Changing from where things are going, right? I get it.
There's two things with that. One, more data was revealed as this happened. So this actually goes back to the climate change clip that I had. Was where Laura Ingraham showed the clip of I think it was Sajid Gupta was wiping down the food. I don't remember. I don't know if you remember doing that, but I remember doing that in April because that's what we thought because it lived on surfaces that was something we had to do. And then when more data came out that was not really an issue, we stopped doing it.
Changed our opinion.
Right. So with Fauci, there was two things to the Fauci thing. One, data changed because we weren't sure exactly how much asymptomatic spread there was. And two, and this is the problem that he ultimately had, but people are construing it as a lie, is he's saying we tried not to tell people to wear masks because we were worried about the N95 supply running out for the people who needed it. So they're always using, the problem is they use that statement as a bludgeon to make sure that everything else he said was discredited. Mm-hmm. So that's where the problem is. And this also came back from the president.
What I'm saying is he could be wrong, right?
Right? But he could be. And I'm not arguing that
there's many, and we're learning as we go, right? Let's admit, when December happened of 2019 and this thing started coming quick, no one knew what it was.
Right.
It just sprung up quick, and it burned like wildfire, and it went across the whole world. And then at the end of the day, everyone's like, "Well, this is Trump's fault. Did it start in America? No,
that's not
and I'm
why.
attacking China. What I'm saying to you is it's the Wuhan virus, and it's okay. They messed up too. They could have messed up. It's okay. It's a fuck up. You know what I mean? We didn't know. It sucks that all these millions of people died, but guys.
But that's the point. Those people didn't have to die. There's examples.
But you can't say that.
We can say that. We have the data and other countries as examples.
Put the precision.
We have other countries as examples. If we do a
full lockdown, that's fine. But those other countries can instill lockdowns.
They're not.
We cannot.
The countries that locked down objectively and effectively to kill the virus, the spread of the virus, we're back to normal months ago. And part of the way we're going to go back to normal, I don't know if I lost you.
We're almost there, man. You're
right. And part of that is because of.
But we're already going back to normal.
And the truly way to get and the best way for everyone to go back to normal is to get vaccinated.
Yeah, and that's what people are doing.
But
but
there's still people.
You better get, and then they even got mad. And they're like, "Hey, you have to get vaccinated, right?" That's another issue. They're like, "You better get vaccinated, or you can't enjoy society. You have to wear a mask." That's another thing they don't understand is you can't tell people that. That's another issue.
No, first off,
the whole concept is they don't have the right to tell you.
No, you're wrong.
Who has the right to tell them?
When people say when you say you can't enjoy society, first off, because you have to wear a mask on, and you're like, oh, I'm dying, and it's too much. It's too much to ask me to put on a piece of cloth. You're a fucking baby. And I hope somebody else would change.
You know that you have to wear 2 or 3 of them in order for it to be 89% effective. And
that was for like 2 months. They thought that was.
And it's not about babies. It's not about babies. It's about they don't want to. And it's not about babies. It's about their right. You have to understand
what right do you have?
Don't even care about their own life. No. You're asking someone to care about your life when they barely care about their own. Sometimes it's very strange.
Okay, that's
some
first
people
off.
Don't even care. Do you know what I'm saying?
Right, but all right, but there's other things to this. So
you know what? It's
okay. So first on this right thing, I don't understand what you mean by it's a right not to wear a mask, because a lot of it is currently right now. Let me finish first. The places that are removing the mandates, there are still private businesses that are going to require you to wear a mask, and people are going to rage against that. And the reason that doesn't make sense is because a private business can advocate that you wear a shirt and shoes.
Yeah.
So why is a mask different?
Because if you don't listen, this is the whole point. 2 years ago, you would think this whole mask thing is insane, wouldn't you?
I still think it's insane.
So why are we still doing it?
No. Wait. What do you mean by insane?
It's insanity. Why in the world is everyone wearing masks?
Because the science says that they block the virus, and not even just the spread of this. It's
by 17%.
No, it's way more.
Wear 2 of them. Then they tell us like 6 months later you got to wear a double mask. When we find out it's higher percentage, and then they're like, actually, if you triple mask, it's 89%. No, stop.
Okay, all right. Now I know triple masking.
We all know that the cloth barely works. Don't stop trying. It's just a comfort thing.
No. Look,
make us feel okay, like we're doing something.
I'm sorry, but you're wrong. First off, I don't think that the triple masking was a thing that was actually advocated for by the CDC. I know it was a thing that Jim Jordan advocated for. I don't remember seeing the CDC say 3 masks. It's possible I missed it. However, we know that wearing them lowers the ability for people to spread COVID. We know this. We also know it lowers the ability for people to spread other diseases, which is part of why the flu was so low this year.
That's fine.
And look,
but it doesn't mean that we have to be a mass society forever.
But nobody is. But you see, that's a misunderstanding of this.
That's what I'm saying. It's okay.
Nobody is advocating for a mass society forever.
Here you go. So I own my own. We'll say we own my own business, right? And we'll say I own a Circle K. I bought into Circle K, right? And there's a Circle K up the street, owned by a different owner. Why can I just say at the beginning of all this, you don't have to wear a mask? I don't care. And then the other person says you do. And if people want to feel safe, they go to that one. And if they don't want to give a shit about the mask, they come to mine.
Is that not the free market?
It's like you just complete. No, but what we did, I apologize, not you, I apologize. What we did is that's not even an option. You all will wear a mask or else.
Or else
happened
what?
Last year. They'll shut down your business, send the health inspector in, destroy and shut it down, take down.
Wait. This sounds hyperbolic. Do you have?
You're not allowed to. No. What I'm saying to you is, yes, they shut down gyms.
Yeah.
They made it so people couldn't start to.
But that was part of the lockdowns because they would.
No. Who are you to? They cannot. This is what I was trying to say. You're pro lockdown, and I'm not at all.
No.
Because you don't have the right. They didn't have the right in the first place.
So
they superseded themselves, and we're cheering for it.
Let me ask you this: if we had locked down, but everyone was given whatever their wage was, and the government had supplied all the corporations and all the businesses with whatever required to make them whole through this, and no businesses shut down, and nobody lost any money on this, would you be against lockdowns?
You don't get it. You just said, all right, we'll hand a whole bunch of people money, but the truck drivers still have to move the resources there.
Right.
You still have to get
Obviously,
Remember,
the frontline people still have to do the jobs to keep. Let's just say
Right.
everything was the same for like we locked down everyone. All the frontline people were adequately compensated. They were adequately protected.
And we created a caste system. You are perfect. You matter. Your job as a gym owner is not as important. You're shut down, but you as Fry's is important. You stay open.
You as what? What was the second one?
You as Fry's because you provide food.
Okay.
Makes sense.
So
you stay open, right? Yeah. But you as a gym ownership who keeps people healthy, you say, even though if you can follow all of our procedures, no.
Okay, but
that's what I'm trying to say is it's not just about that. It's about the government should have just suggested to us, and we should have made that decision. And like when they brought it up, the masks before the mandate, I wore the mask to be polite. People, our citizens care more about our other citizens than I think you think they do.
No, I actually disagree.
People wear these masks where they don't. I think they do, man. I think that they wore these masks and they've dealt with it, even though they don't want to at all.
Look, nobody's.
Do you see what I'm saying? And they dealt with it. They do. They just
look.
deal with you guys saying do it, and they're like, I don't want to do this. I don't care.
Okay,
and you
but
made them do it anyway.
So do
you feel me?
I understand what you're saying. I think you're wrong. So here's let me lay this out to you.
Part of the reason you can say I'm wrong, but their rights do supersede.
I'm not okay. So we're not talking about we're not talking just about the government just decided that people couldn't do things out of nowhere.
They did.
No,
they did.
You're missing the fact
because of a virus.
Because there was an emergency where certain activities would cause the overall health of people to be negatively impacted. Correct?
A certain percentage of the health, yes. We shut down for less than 1%.
No.
That's what we shut down for.
What
percentage died? We can go look it up, right?
Right.
Now. What percentage died?
But what happened to the people who got the virus and didn't die?
What else happened to them? What percentage of our country actually got the virus? That's what I'm wondering.
Well, let's see.
That's what I've been actually wondering.
So there is not directly accurate data on this because we did such a piss poor job of testing to start.
No, it's just hard to do testing on a virus that shows up and then you have to dude.
It's not hard because no.
A nightmare. Do you know what I mean? You're not doing the logistics. Another guy is.
I'm not doing the logistics, but I also know that the people in charge who were supposed to do the logistics were not doing it either because we've seen other countries that did significantly better in testing. So let's take what we know about the U.S.
countries probably, right? Could we say that?
They were a little bit smaller, but the testing for us could have been ramped up. Country. But we were against testing. Donald Trump was against testing. That's part of why. So look. For the percentage of people who had it, we know 500,000 died. We know, I think the last count I saw was 32 million, I think is the most recent count I've seen of people were infected with COVID.
So 10%.
But wait, the projection is that they were undercounted by something like 5 times. It was the actual number is 5 times higher.
No. Listen. If you want to play this, we do 5% ratio. I'll give you a 2% ratio to 5%, not 5 times.
All right, so let's just take it as
so if we do it a 5, 10, 15% ratio, you're talking about what, 40%?
Right. So about 40% of the country had it. Let's just
40 million. I apologize. Not 40% of the country. Only 30 million. We'll say we'll give them an extra 10 or we'll give them up to 50 million, right?
Okay, so 50 million had it.
Make it easier.
So if 50 million had it, if we're just projecting that, 50 million had it, and 500,000 people died, that's not a 1% death rate. That's not a 1% death rate. I
think it's lower, isn't it?
Oh, it's possible. I'm pretty bad at math.
No worries. I'm bad at math too. We're not mathematians, so you and I are just people talking.
So then, in order to
mean? Like, it's just me and you are having a conversation. It might be political, but it's just you and me chatting. I hope.
No. Obviously, and I hope people are listening to this. I've been seeing the viewer count pop in and out, and we'll probably have more discussions in the future about things. But look, here's the thing on the lockdowns. You keep saying it's they're objecting to our rights. When there are certain times when the federal government, in order for the overall safety of the people in the country, has to supersede some of your rights. We've seen this in the past, and we're okay with some of these things in the past.
I think it was in the Japanese internment camps. I remember seeing it.
That's not even the one I'm talking about. I'm talking about the Patriot Act.
What I'm saying, oh no, that is a straight up piece of shit.
But why was it?
Sorry, I'm so mad at that thing existing.
Dude. Exactly, but why? So
mad, and you have to remember that had both support.
Exactly, and it was pushed through as a reason to protect people, and that's an actual objection to your rights. Here, the government had, in order to truly stop this virus from spreading in the way that it did across the country, the most effective measure that we knew was a lockdown, and in order to make sure that people were able to safely lock down and not have to go back to work in unsafe conditions and go back into society and continue to spread the virus, we needed to adequately compensate people, both for their business loss and for potential wage loss, in order to push them into locking down. And had we said, you will lose zero money if you are one of the people, your business will lose zero money. The government will compensate you for all of it. And if you are one of those frontline people, whether you are working in a grocery store, whether you are in a truck driver or whatever, or you are
they get paid extra, right?
You get paid extra. And that will be covered by the government.
Do something like that a little bit?
But let me explain.
Some companies did.
Right, let me continue.
I feel like the government did do these things, right?
Kind of.
Good.
We did half of those. We both did not lock down hard enough because people were not adequately compensated to lockdown. So therefore, people lost their wages because we did not qualify them. We did not make them whole. Instead of locking them down to kill the spread. Because if we saw places spike because when they released restrictions. So if we had really
some places did, yes.
Some places did. We know for where Kristi Noem, when she did the biker thing, there was a massive super spreader event. We know that there was things.
You're talking up there, up north. Is that what you're talking about? Is that
So one of the Carolinas, whichever one had the biker event.
Okay.
So while you said you're right, we did do some of that, but we didn't do it adequately. The $1,200 for a year was the only good thing that came out of any of those bills. Was the $600 bonus in unemployment. That was the only thing that kept anybody going.
Well, they also got some $1,200.
Right, but some people got the $1,200. I only got one of the stimulus checks.
Oh, you didn't get your 6?
No, I only got the 14.
Is that from Joe?
That was the one from Joe. That's the only one I got.
And then there was 12 from Trump, and then 6.
I didn't get either of those.
Why? You should have gotten those.
I don't know why I didn't get them.
I just got, do you understand? I don't know how you didn't get those.
I don't understand it either,
You might need to go check that out.
I looked in it, and they just told me I didn't qualify. The problem is we didn't have a robust enough thing. And the reason we lost so many small businesses is because we tried to just give it to the large companies, which is why the first, was it the CARES Act, was the one with the largest upward transfer of wealth in history. They took a money cannon.
Oh, we know that.
They took a fucking money cannon.
Well, that's what happens, dude, when you shut all the small business down and say.
But why did that have to go? Why do we have to fire the money cannon?
What I mean?
We didn't have to fire the money cannon at the top. We could have fired it at the bottom, because that's where the damage was, at the bottom. Jeff Bezos is richer now than before he got divorced. Elon Musk made quadrupled his wealth, and now all he does is fuck around with Bitcoin.
Yeah.
So look, if we had locked down hard enough and actually backed people, we would have been fine. That's why Donald Trump did not do a good job, because he didn't advocate for both of those things. And when he did advocate for them, it was too late. He also was against wearing a mask, because a lot of people would look at him, especially in a time of crisis. This is why Cuomo unfairly was lauded, because he projected strength. If Donald Trump had come out truly wearing, say, look.
No. Cuomo is a horrible example.
I legitimately, no, I agree with
by far.
I don't agree. Look,
not be in his position. It's over.
He
That guy should be recalled.
Yeah, he should have consequences. But during the event, if you remember that the current talk, there was people advocating that Cuomo should be the nominee instead of Joe Biden because he projected strength.
He did. But you see, even though someone projects something, it doesn't mean you don't know what's going on in the background. Right.
But if Donald Trump...
Like, let's just say Trump goes, hey, let's full lockdown. Do you know how many lawsuits open up from that? Immediately,
I think...
From the moment do you know what I'm saying? Like, the second...
I'm sure there would have been people who would argue it. But I think if he had said, because of the grip he has...
You'd be known as a tyrant.
No.
Oh, my God.
I think most of the people who are arguing that these people were tyrants were from people who were on the right because that's what they were fed. I think if Donald Trump had said, let's lock down, please wear a mask, help is coming, and it actually came.
He said that.
But he had to be badgered into it.
Yeah, because you have to understand, man, he has to finesse us.
No, he doesn't.
Just like Joe Biden, yes, they have to finesse us. They cannot talk to us straight. When they talk to us straight, right? When they tell us straight how things are, right? People get all mad. People get all hurt. And he's like, listen. And the thing is they were calling him like a dictator on CNN and MSNBC. And then if he was like, lockdown everyone, they'd be like, look, he is a dictator.
I don't remember them calling him.
There was no winning. There would be no winning for him if.
But if
he did a full on lockdown, they would be like, look at him. He's
no, I don't think so. I think a lot of look. But we agree the reason he lost was because of COVID, right? Right. And the reason that is because people had the perception that he didn't do enough to keep them safe. So I think had he actually done the lockdown, I think enough people would have seen the negative effects wouldn't have been worth it, wouldn't have been as bad had they because look, when he was talking about the $2,000 stimulus check, he was doing that after he lost the presidential election. He was doing that to try to hold the Senate. And part of the reason Donald Trump lost is because of Mitch McConnell. Mitch McConnell absolutely did this because he did not want to give more people help. And this is part of why the Republicans won't ever get rid of the filibuster. Because the Republican reason for the filibuster, they don't need the filibuster there. Tax cuts, you can do through reconciliation. Judges already removed the filibuster for that. Deregulation, you don't need the filibuster for that either. So when you actually try to push in policies that need the filibuster, Republicans don't care. But ultimately, what happened with this?
Well, it's vice versa. It's vice versa. We watched 4 years. We saw that work vice versa too, where the filibuster stopped. Many things that Republicans were doing that Democrats didn't want to happen. You saw it, and I saw it.
Yes, also, but partly because there were things that Donald Trump would vaguely. I think we would have seen a lot more of the use of the filibuster by the. First of all, he didn't have any. He had control over everything the first 2 years he was in office. And then after that, he was in divided government. And at no point did they make really any try to reach across the aisle. The Joe Biden administration has reached across the aisle way more than the Trump administration has. But we know that you
can't say that at the same time. You know that.
Yeah.
They're two completely different people. People call Trump a cultural phenomenon. Joe Biden is just the normal he's the same. He is.
Wait, so you really think that the Trump administration reached out to Democrats to try to pass policy more than the Joe Biden has?
Yeah. Did you see how many times he had Nancy and Chuck in his office trying to bring things down with them?
For what?
Dude, go look it up in 4 years.
Go for what? What was he pushing with them?
Remember, what was his big thing? He's like, I'm a builder. Let's get some infrastructure going.
Yeah.
They didn't get any infrastructure. Those guys blue balled each other so hard.
That's because, did you look, their infrastructure bill hasn't changed from the Trump administration to their response to the Joe Biden one. Their current infrastructure bill is paid for by you and me, instead of the Joe Biden one that's paid for by the wealthy. It's not an effective way to build the infrastructure.
But it should be built with both of us. Like, that's the point. It's both of us doing this. That's another thing. It should be paid by the wealthy and us.
Right, but a majority. But that's not what the raise for the money would be. That if you look at the Republican response, it's not. So the reason infrastructure became a joke is partly because he had no plan. And if you look at him, Donald Trump advocated on the campaign trail for Medicare for all.
Mm-hmm. No, he did, yeah.
Yes, he did. And he never
wanted to remove Obamacare and put something better in there.
But the problem was
something to talk about.
The problem was he had no idea what the fuck he was talking about. That was a big problem. And two, he didn't understand what the bills that they were even pushing for. If you look back at what happened when they were doing the healthcare debates, they asked him, Donald Trump, do you know that there's a massive tax cut in this bill? Because there was. And he said, no, we're talking about healthcare. They're like, there's a massive tax cut in this bill. He's like, well, I don't know what you're talking about. And the reason that bill ultimately failed, which was through reconciliation, because there was not an actual solution. There was no real replacement for Obamacare. They were just going to let people dangle.
There is no real replacement for Obamacare.
The replacement for Obamacare is Medicare for All. It's the next step.
Yeah. I semi agree. With that.
But that's a different conversation. So look,
yeah, the way
we have been.
Yeah, you're going on 3 hours, man. It's okay. We've been all over the place.
Yeah, we've been. All right. So when I look through this, I'm gonna try to just snippet this part for. I'll try to do that later for the YouTube. Are you following me? I don't know who's left. Let's see who's still left in the chat. I keep seeing these people but they never say anything. So
people come in and out.
Yeah, I know that. I know that.
Or they'll play stuff, or some people are just trying to listen to you, or there's some people are playing video games and.
Yeah, I know. Look. So this was good.
You're a lot better than most of the lefties, like real lefties, because you're not a leftist. If you think you are, you're not.
I'm a. Well, it depends on who you're referring
to. You're so
to.
far from it.
Who you consider?
You know what I mean?
Who are you considering a lefty? That
Antifa. Antifa would be a lefty. Black Lives Matter hardcore, meaning like you are okay when they burn down buildings. That would be a lefty.
Okay, so I can see the more nuance to that, and Antifa is not really a thing. There's more nuance to that as well.
Is.
So who are you referring to? Like actual streamers when you say lefties?
You want to know why I know Antifa is a thing? Because I watched them. I watched them every night for like 4 or 5 months.
Were you in Portland?
In Portland and Seattle, and them talking about themselves. No, I watched them. You can watch them live, and you can see them. They record themselves. They're proud of what they do.
Okay, we'll have the Antifa talk another time. But who? I'm just curious. Like,
but I don't think you. Go ahead.
Who do you like? When you refer to me as like not like a real lefty? The like who are the?
No,
are you talking
like
about
a centrist Democrat?
I'm not. I'm certainly not a centrist.
I feel like you would be closer to a bulldog.
I'm closer to Bernie than I am to Joe Manchin.
Maybe.
No, I am. Those are my policy beliefs are closer to Bernie than Joe Manchin. But do you have look, I know I'm not the Vosh and Hassan are further left of me. I think.
Oh, thank God.
I actually have Vosh is
too far, man.
You
know, you got to stay in the middle.
I'm not in the middle. I'm in the middle on the global spectrum, but on the U.S. spectrum, I'm on the left. No, Vosh is a big reason why I started doing this because I really like what he says. But yeah, I haven't listened to like a huge amount of streamers on Twitch. So if you have people who you know or you've watched that you think I'm not I'm further to the middle of as a lefty, I'd be interested in talking to them. So we could do that another time. Anyway, I think I'm going to call it here. We'll be back tomorrow.
Thank you for having me on.
Thanks, bro. Do you have any shout-outs for anything that you want to do?
No, dude. I'm just a normal guy.
All right.
You did a great job. You're doing a great job. Keep kicking ass. It's okay, man. We can have these discussions.
Whoa.
But you have to remember, what I'm going to say is my last piece for you, for real, is that the reason why I say the center is where it is because that's where we can talk. Because when you go to the left and you go too far right, we go too far to the left, right, you can't meet back here in the middle where we can actually discuss because the things that you think about on the far right and the far left are so different. Do you see what I'm saying? There's no
I do understand.
You know?
So I think there's difference. So I could objectively have a conversation with like a Nazi. Whether or not they would agree with me is not true. Is different. But we could have a conversation. The difference is how civil are you going to be? I think that's what I think you're conflating civility with moderation.
Oh, okay. But yeah, I'll let you go. Sorry about that. You have a good one, man.
Hey, you too. Thanks. So I'll see you probably tomorrow. We'll be on around the same time.
Oh yeah, peace out, dude.
All right, see you. All right, let me just figure out how to turn this off. Oh, shit. Did not mean to do that. Fuck. Got it. Exit quietly. All right, good. Appears to be gone. All right, so that was way longer than I thought it was. I hope anyone who's still left enjoyed it. So please, the Discord link is in the chat. You want to come in and then have long rambling conversations about everything. Holy fuck. Yeah, otherwise you can follow me at Fresh Faces New Ideas on YouTube or Faces Ideas on Twitter. And hey man, this was good. I have no idea what we'll do tomorrow. Probably the 2 police cases and then Bill Gates and then whatever stun locking crazy shit happens here. But hey, thanks for joining, and I'll